Yo, what's up guys? I'm back with another build video, and I found the most overpowered Prismatic Consecration build in the Edge of Fate right now. If you guys take a look at the screen, we are literally one-shotting a boss with our Consecration. Real quick guys, all of this gameplay is at 300 light and at master level difficulty or higher. And if you guys do look in the bottom right hand corner, we do have limited revives, so this is difficult content. It takes 3 melees to kill this guy. Like, it's absolutely insane. Kobe! And here's another example of just literally destroying the health bar of a boss with Consecration. Literally took us one Consecration hit to make this guy's health bar go all the way down. So I've been using this build to power level grind. Since it does one-shot bosses, it does make the solo ops go a lot faster and make it a little less grindy, a little more fun, so we can actually enjoy playing Destiny again. So I wanted to share with you guys and, give you the best build I've found so far. But first, if you guys enjoy this video, please don't be afraid to give the video a like. It's a great way to support the channel, and we really appreciate it. So for this build, we are going to be using the Prismatic subclass with the super Glacial Quake. Glacial Quake's really good because it has high burst damage, it's got crowd control, and it's really versatile. We're also going to be scaling Glacial Quake with our exotic armor piece, which you'll see later in the build, but essentially when we use our exotic armor piece with Glacial Quake, it's going to have increased damage, and it's going to do a lot of damage. And that increased damage is going to help us deal with champions and bosses and just overall add clear, which is awesome. For the abilities in this build, we're going to be using Dringer's Lash and Glacier Grenade. Dringer's Lash is going to be really good for this build because we get 3 empowered melee abilities with it, which is going to pair really well with our aspects. It's also going to sever targets and help us get Darkness Transcendence energy. And then we're going to be using Glacial Grenade because it's good for crowd control, pairs really well with Consecration, which you'll see. And it also helps us build Darkness Transcendence energy, which is important for this build. So for the aspects in this build, we're going to be using Consecration and Knockout. Consecration is going to be our main point of damage. It's how we're going to add clear everything. It's how we're going to do boss damage, aside from our heavy weapon, obviously. And it's how we're going to create lots of solar ignitions. This is the most important part of our build. It's going to be our main source of damage, and it's also going to be our main source of light transcendence energy so that we can get Prismatic and get Transcendent. And then for our other aspect, we are using Knockout. It just pairs really well with Consecration. Anytime we critically wound a target or break their shields, it infuses our melee with arc energy. It also increases our arc melee's range, damage, and gives us health regeneration anytime we get a melee kill. It also amplifies us, which gives us energy regen and makes us even tankier. So overall, Knockout just pairs really well with Consecration for a melee focused build. Now let's talk about our fragments. This really is where our build starts to go to the next level. So for the first fragment we're using Faceted Protection. Faceted Protection is a staple in any in-game Titan build. Essentially, while we're surrounded by combatants, we are going to be more resistant to incoming damage, while Transcendent, the effect is increased. So we're going to gain about 15 to 32% of total increased damage based on whether we're prismatic or not. And we're just going to be really, really hard to kill, guys. For our second fragment, I'm kind of sticking to my guns on survivability, and we're running the Facet of Blessing. Anytime we get a melee final blow, we're going to start health regeneration. And if we are in a fire team ops, anytime we get a transcendent melee final blow, our allies are also going to get health regeneration. This is really good for staying alive while we're in the fight and inside getting pounded by a lot of adds. And then for our third fragment, guys, we're going to be using the Facet of Ruin. It's going to increase the shatter size and the burst of our stasis crystals. It also increases the area effect of our solar ignitions. And since we are using Glacial Grenade and Consecration, we're going to be making lots of explosions happen with our grenade and our Consecration. So this is a must-have. It's really good. Gives us more damage, gives us more add clear, and it's just really fun to watch things go boom. Then for our fourth and final fragment, we're going to be running the Facet of Grace. Defeating targets with kinetic weapons is going to grant us bonus Transcendence energy. Defeating targets with our super also grants us and nearby allies Transcendence energy. This is really important because we are going to be using a primary weapon that is kinetic, which brings me into my next section. We're going to talk about the weapons we're using next, so let's jump into that. For our primary weapon in this build, we're going to be using the Monte Carlo. It's going to be our main source of DPS as far as weapons go, for add clear, dealing with champions, etc. Basically, anytime we use the Monte Carlo, we can get kills on adds. It can give us a stack of our melee, an entire stack. It has a chance to grant us a full melee, which is absolutely insane because this entire build is about stacking our melee and doing even more damage with the next melee. The Monte Carlo also gains increased damage for each melee kill you get and each weapon kill you get with the Monte Carlo. So your damage on this weapon just stacks up to 5 times. And once you fully stack it, you have the option to long press whatever your reload button is and pull out a bayonet and use that as a melee and do even more damage. But you really don't need to do that for this build, but it is a nice option to have. For our secondary weapon, we're just running a pulse rifle to deal with barrier champions. My personal favorite is the VXR battle rifle, the Halo Classic. I run it with incandescent and demolitionist. It's great for dealing with champions, good for ad clear, plays into solar well, so you get the little fire and ice combo that we've been having throughout this entire build. And then our heavy, just use whatever you want. I've been using the Outrageous Fortune with incandescent and explosive light. All right, now let's talk about our armor set. For our armor set, we are using the TechSec armor set. We're using 4 pieces of it, so we get both bonuses. The TechSec armor set gives us significantly increased kinetic damage to combatant shields and overshields. So this is really big anytime we're shooting a shield with our Monte Carlo. It helps kill targets extremely fast. It helps us do more damage, and it helps us create more orbs of power because we're going to be using kinetic siphon. Then we're also going to be pairing it, and then the second bonus that the TechSec armor piece gives us is concussive rounds. Defeating powerful combatants or breaking a combatant shield with kinetic damage releases a disorienting shockwave. This is actually insane, because if you are fighting multiple shielded targets, you can disorient all of them by killing one shield, and then you can just kill everything safely. It's really great, it's fun to use, and it pairs really well with this entire build. Alright guys, now let's talk about our exotic armor piece. So our exotic armor piece in this build is actually going to be the Worm God Caress. The Worm God Caress has an exotic armor perk called Burning Fist that allows us to get escalating melee damage anytime we defeat a target with a melee or finisher. It does decay over time. However, with Prismatic and the Monte Carlo, we'll be able to have our melee up constantly, so we can constantly be stacking Burning Fist. Burning Fist actually got the same damage buff that the Strand exotic ranged melee item got, but it hasn't been nerfed yet. So Burning Fist does an insane amount of damage, just like that Strand item did. Burning Fist is going to stack up to 275% total damage. It's going to one-shot literally everything at max stacks, and it is going to freaking nuke ads, nuke bosses, and make cruising through content that you don't want to play so that you can play the things that you do want to play so much easier. For the armor stats in this build, you're going to want to prioritize melee, obviously. I think in most of this, I'm running 168 melee, but if you can get to 200, it's really good. And the second stats you want to run are weapon damage, because you want something else to do damage besides your melee in case for some crazy reason you don't have a melee ability up. And then obviously you're going to want your grenade up right after that. I wasn't able to do that. I had melee, weapon stats, and health, and it turned out really well. The grenade cooldown's a little slower for me, but if you can get your grenade cooldown up along with your melee and weapon stats, you're going to be cruising, and it's going to feel really great and really smooth at all times. Alright, now let's talk about our armor mods for this build. On our helmet, we're going to run hands-on and double kinetic siphon. Hands-on is going to give us bonus super energy on melee kills, which we'll be getting a lot of. And then double kinetic siphon is going to give us orbs of power on our final blows we get with the Monte Carlo. For our gauntlets, we're going to want to run heavy-handed so that we get orbs of power anytime we get a melee kill. And melee font. Melee font is going to give us bonus to our melee stat while we have an armor charge, and we get an armor charge anytime we pick up an orb of power. So we're going to get even more bonus melee stats because of that armor mod. And then moving on to our chest piece, just run whatever resistance mods fits the encounter you're on. Resistance mods are always super important. I've been running health font, but I don't think you guys need to. Just run whatever fits the encounter you're on. And then for our leg pieces, we are going to be running recuperation and double kinetic weapon surge. I was kind of playing around with this, and your Monte Carlo actually kind of shreds with double kinetic weapon surge. And then recuperation is going to give us more health, but you can always replace these weapon surges for your heavy. So if you use like a solar heavy, use solar weapon surge, or just fit whatever you're using. And then for our Titan mark, we are running double distribution and outreach. Double distribution is going to grant all of our abilities cooldowns anytime we use our class ability near targets. and Outreach is going to grant our melee cooldown anytime we use our class ability near targets, just making our cooldowns that much better. Alright guys, now let's talk about our seasonal artifact mods. A lot of these aren't going to matter, but I'll tell you which ones that do. So in our first column, we're going to want Anti-Barrier Scout and Pulse so that we can deal with Anti-Barrier Champions. We're also going to want to Overload Rapid Fire so that we can deal with Overload Champions with our Monte Carlo. We'll deal with Unstoppable by just using Consecration because Ignitions literally just make them vulnerable and we kill them instantly. And then the next ones that really do matter, you guys can use whatever you want. I'll put what I have up on the screen, but the next ones that do matter are going to be Fever and Chill, Rapid Precision hits with Solar Weapons grant Radiant. So we can use that for our secondary if you're using a BXR like me. Or if you're using a Stasis weapon, you can use it to grant Frost Armor. We're also going to be using Frost Renewal. While you have Frost Armor, taking critical damage releases a burst that freezes nearby combatants and grants you Frost Armor to you and nearby allies. So we will get Frost Armor, pretty often with this build. Not on purpose. We'll get it occasionally, not pretty often. But we can use that to essentially get tanky and freeze nearby targets. We're also going to be using Cauterized Darkness, Stasis, or Strand Debuff. Non-boss combatants take increased solar damage, which from all sources, so that plays our Consecration is going to nuke Stasis and Strand Debuff targets. And then we are going to be using Elemental Daze. Stunning a champion with an elemental weapon creates an elemental aligned explosion, applying a matching elemental debuff to them and nearby targets. So if we stun a barrier champion with our Solar Pulse Rifle, we are going to create a solar explosion that's going to debuff them and nearby champions, which is awesome, plays really well in this build. Then we're going to be using Elemental Coalescence. Defeating targets has a chance to create an elemental pickup matching your equipped super. So we're going to get Stasis Shards. It's going to help us get our Frost Armor occasionally. And then we're using Shield Crush. While you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or a Void Overshield, your melee charges faster. And while you're Amplified or Radiant, your grenade recharges faster. We will get Amplified, Woven Mail, or Amplified and Frost Armor in this build, so this is really good. So we'll get faster melee recharges and faster grenade charges, which is insane. But that's the build, guys. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and comment. All of those are great ways to support the channel for free. And if you guys want to see how I went from the absolute worst player in Destiny 2 to soloing Grandmaster Nightfalls, please click the video on your screen. Thanks for watching, and as always, peace!